Hey, it's your tutor Courtney Waterman, lover of anime, manga, and math. And this is another session of Tutor Me Senpai. Welcome back, everyone. Today we're jumping into a 5th grade topic, identifying triangles. Now, just so we're on the same page, there are 2 ways you can identify triangles. First way being by their sides, and the other way being by their angles. Today we'll be focusing on their sides. If you have any question about what we see today, remember you can always put it in the comment box below. I'd love to check them out and help you if I can. If you have questions about your own homework, remember you can visit me on Facebook at Tutor Me Senpai and tell me all about it there. When you find this video helpful, remember to leave that like, hit the notification bell, and smash the subscribe button so you know exactly when I'm dropping my next videos. Well, without further ado, let's talk a little bit more about identifying triangles. So today's video will give you 3 easy ways you can remember the differences between the 3 triangles. However, before we get to that, we got to talk about what are the 3 triangles. The first triangle we're going to be talking about is a triangle with 3 equal sides. And this is called an equilateral triangle. So how we denote an equilateral triangle is you look at the one side, we put a little dash or a tick mark here, and we look at the other one and say, hey, that looks pretty much identical to this one. So it gets a second one, and we look at the last one, and we do the same thing. If all 3 sides are equal, it's an equilateral triangle. Now, it might be hard to kind of tell, especially with hand-drawn triangles, but if you have an actual picture, I recommend you take your ruler and you verify. Sometimes they'll even have a number here. So if all the numbers on the outside are the same, then you know then this is the equal sides to each other. However, 3 equal sides for a triangle is called an equilateral triangle. The next triangle we're going to be talking about is called an isosceles triangle. So we're going to do the same thing we did for the equilateral triangle. We'll start at one side here and say, hey, this side is pretty equal with this one. However, this side is not, right? If you ignore the little extra part here, this side is a little bit smaller than these 2 sides. So we give it a different tick mark. So unlike the equilateral where all 3 tick marks are the same, a isosceles triangle has 2 equal sides. These 2 tick marks are the same. This third one is not the same, so it doesn't get the same type of tick mark. So you see here, the difference between an equilateral and an isosceles triangle is an equilateral has 3 equal sides. An isosceles triangle has only 2 equal sides. The last triangle we're going to be talking about today is called a scalene triangle. Now, you're going to do the same thing we did for the equilateral and the isosceles. We'll take one side, let's say the bottom here, give it 1 tick, and we notice that this bottom is a lot bigger than this side. So we give this one a 2 tick, and we know that both of these, they look a lot smaller than this third side. So we give that third side a different tick mark. And you see, none of these sides have the same tick mark. This means that none of the sides are equal. Now this might, once again, this might look a little bit off because it's a hand-drawn triangle, but I recommend if you have a ruler and you have homework that has something like this, use your ruler and verify that all 3 sides are different. Especially if they have numbers, it becomes a lot easier. So if this is a 4, if that's a 3, and that's a 5, you see that these are all different sides. A scalene triangle has no equal sides. So an equilateral has 3, an isosceles has 2, and a scalene has no equal sides. So now let's talk about some easy ways you can remember those 3 facts so you can easily identify your 3 types of triangles. So I'll give you 2 visual tricks and 1 phonic trick to kind of really drive this point home. And what I mean by phonic is you're going to sound it out and it's going to sound similar to something else. So the first trick, our visual, will start with us writing out each of the names. So we have an equilateral triangle, isosceles triangle, and scalene triangle. And if you notice, when you have these capital letters, we have a little trick we can use. So let's take this first one. How many horizontal lines are in our first letter? Well, if you count them, you get 1, 2, 3. So we have 3 horizontal lines in our first letter of equilateral. How about we do the same thing for isosceles? How many horizontal lines are in our first letter of isosceles? That's 2. All right, how about scalene? How many horizontal lines do we have in our first letter of scalene? None. So if you look at this, equilateral has 3 horizontal lines in our first letter, and it also has 3 equal sides. Isosceles has 2 horizontal lines, and it also has 2 equal sides. Scalene has no horizontal lines, and it has no equal sides. So that is one trick that you can use to remember which type of triangle goes with which sides. Equilateral has 3 horizontal lines, 3 equal sides. Isosceles, 2 horizontal lines, 2 equal sides. Scalene, no horizontal lines, no equal sides. The next visual trick uses the first letters again. So once again, if one of these works better for you, stick with that because that's going to help you a lot more. So our next trick uses E, I, and S. And I want you to realize when you look at E, I, and S, E and I are vowels. And S is not, right? So you can look at this as the vowels have equal sides, some amount of equal sides. So vowels have equal sides, whereas S does not. And E comes before I in the alphabet, so we give this one the most equal sides. And this one has the least equal sides. So E and I are both vowels where S is not, so S doesn't have any equal sides. Only the vowels will have equal sides. E comes before I in the alphabet, so we give it the most. We give it the 3 equal sides. I comes second, so it gets the least. It gets 2 equal sides. So that's another way we can use our first letter to kind of give us a clue as to, hey, what does equilateral mean? Oh, 3 equal sides. Isosceles. Oh, 2 equal sides. So now let's move on to our phonic trick. And as we're sounding things out, I want you to visualize, and I'm going to try to help you with some pictures here, but I want you to visualize the thing that you're sounding out. So we're going to first start with the easiest triangle, our equilateral triangle. Now, if you would just say equilateral, what is the first thing that kind of comes to mind when you're saying equilateral? Well, I think of equal, right? The big old equal sign. So if you're thinking equilateral and the first thing that comes to mind is equal, well, now you're starting to think, okay, this must be the one with the most equal sides. Equals in its name when I say it. So equilateral, try to remember equal sides, and not just any equal sides, the most equal sides, because it has equal in its name. Equilateral. The next triangle is the isosceles triangle. Now, when I say isosceles, it doesn't have the same ring as equilateral, right? However, one thing I think about when I think of isosceles, ice cream. So when I think of isosceles, I think of an ice cream cone, right? And if you look at this ice cream cone here, you'll see that it looks very similar to our isosceles triangle. If we just remove the top and then rotate it a little bit, we have this isosceles triangle with 2 equal sides and one that's not. So isosceles triangles tend to look like ice cream cones. So our last triangle, scalene. When you say scalene, I'm thinking of a scale, right? So we have this scale here. If I think of scaling, we have this scale. And a scale tends to weigh things. And sometimes when you're weighing things, they aren't equal, right? So we have this tilt to one side. We're not thinking equality here. We have this tilt that shows, hey, these two weights aren't equal. So when you think of scaling, you think of a scale that's not equal. The scale is tilted, not equal. Scaling, no equal sides. Our scale is not equal. Now that we've talked about our tricks, I want us to pay attention to these three triangles we have to work on today. Now these are going to be a little bit hard to kind of see because they don't have any numbers. But once again, if this was your own homework, take out that ruler and really measure it to see which sides are the same. We're going to be eyeballing these, but based on how we eyeball it, we're going to come up with an idea of if this is a equilateral, if it's an isosceles, or if it's a scalene triangle. So our first one, our top one, we look at that and we see, all right, we have two sides that definitely look equal. And if I was to draw it out right here, it looks something like this. These two sides look a little equal. This one seems a little bit longer, so I would give it a 2- instead of a 1-, right? All right, so which type of triangle has two equal sides? So if we remember our first trick, we had two horizontal lines in our first letter of isosceles. So if we use that first trick, that should let us know this is going to be an isosceles triangle. Two equal sides, two horizontal lines. This is an isosceles triangle. Our next one, we look at this and it's like, hey, this one looks pretty similar to both of these, actually. This one looks like it has three equal sides. So if we use our second trick, we know that only the vowels have equal sides, right? Only the vowels are going to have equal sides. And which vowel comes first, E or I? Well, E, right? E comes first, so it has the most. So if that's the case, this is going to be an equilateral triangle. E comes before I, and because it's a vowel, it has the most equal sides, so it gets all three of these. Equilateral triangle. And how about this last one? So we look at this, and forgive this little mess right here, but this side looks different from this side, which looks different from this side. There are no equal sides here. So if we use our last trick, we had this scale that was not equal, right? Our scale wasn't equal. So no equal sides have an unequal scale. And what sounds like scale? Scalene, right? So this will be a scalene triangle. Unequal scale leads us to believe we have no equal sides. So this would be a scalene triangle. So I hope you're able to follow on to this example. If you have any questions about what you saw here today, if any of the steps seem a little confusing, put them in the comment box below. I'd love to be able to read those and help you as much as I can. If you haven't done it already, remember to leave that like, hit the notification bell, smash the subscribe button, and share this video with a friend. If you have any questions about your own homework you'd like to see on this channel, remember to visit me on Facebook at Tutor Sempai and tell me all about it there. Well, that's all the time I have for today. I really hope it's helped with your homework, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again next week. Remember, I'm Courtney, and this has been another session of Tutor Sempai.